right at the top of the hour. My name is Kirk Behrendt, and I am the CEO of Act Dental. And with me, I have the amazing Jenni Poulos, who is a lead practice coach for us. And you're going to see she's the brains. I am just the front funny guy and big concept guy, but it's really important that she's on here because we can get into some of the details. Now, a couple things for those of you that are just jumping on. And if you can see, Jenni, can you see my screen here?
I sure can.
Okay, so today's webinar, again, we're going to be talking about a very important subject that a lot of people have questions about. We're going to give you some great tools, some great frameworks to use. And then there is a handout for it. It's a 6-page handout. And what we're going to do to start is we're going to cover some frameworks that you and your team, we're going to ask you and your team to constantly stay in dialogue with and about. And we'll start with that. And then we're going to go through each one of the 5 steps. And so you'll see we're going to go through the steps in detail, what to do when it comes to those steps. And then I want you to fill in what your game plan would be with your team or the data that you're going to gather. And we'll cover all of those. And then lastly, what we're going to do is cover a lot of the verbal skills, because how you communicate this once you've decided is critically important. And I don't think you can practice enough when it comes to how we communicate. And Jenni's going to share some thoughts. And then on the last page, on page number 6, you're going to see we put together a follow-up or an action items list. And 3 things I'm going to ask you to do. Just join our Facebook group, our private Facebook group. Over 13,000 of you have joined just in the last few months, and it's quite an active group. You're going to see a very supportive group of people out there that are willing to help you, and a lot of them are having the same situations that you're having in your practice. So just join us over there for additional dialogue about this. Also, if at any point during this you're just stressed and you're like, this is a lot to think about, raise your hand and you can schedule a call with us. And it's just a chat to talk about your practice, help you think through some of these things. Because if there's one wish I have for you, is that you look at the future of dentistry and you just enjoy going to work. I don't care what kind of practice. I don't care where you practice. Just our only goal is we hope you enjoy going to work, and sometimes you just need some thinking on that. And then if you're a serious student and you're just kind of stuck and you're wondering how the heck do I make 2021 better than 2020, you can do a comprehensive exam, which we call a practice assessment, and we'll do a deep dive and take a look at all of your data, give you a treatment plan, and you can email me directly and we'll talk about that a little bit as we get going. So let's jump into it. What do you think? Sounds good. All right. So I'm going to jump into this, but Jenni, I always love people to know who you are. So Jenni, where are you at and why are you an amazing coach at Act Dental? Let's start there.
Okay.
I know the answers to that, but I want other people to know.
Well, Jenni, hello. I am blessed to be a coach here at Act Dental. It's really is something that I'm so grateful for. And I am here because like many of you, all of you out there, I work in a practice, and years and years and years ago, my practice became coaching clients with Act Dental. I went through the process and I learned firsthand what an amazing group of people there are at Act, and I learned how to create a better practice and a better life. And now I get to share all of those amazing things that I learned with teams that I coach every day. And I'm just blessed to have that opportunity and to be here today.
Awesome. Well, we are blessed to have you here. And so I'm going to share the specific screen. So I hope that looks a little bit better. Okay. So take us through the frameworks. There's going to be 3 frameworks we're going to use throughout this. And I feel strongly that these are things that you should use at all times. And the first one is E minus R equals C. And Jenni, you mentioned this at the admin course a few weeks ago. I love how you framed this. Tell us about this formula and what this means.
Yeah. I mean, expectation minus reality equals conflict. I want you to highlight that on that sheet. If you don't have it, write it down. It is the most important formula that we refer back to. It's important in our lives, but it's important in our practice with the way that we communicate with what our patients expect. You know, we really want to set our patients and set our teams up for success. And the way that we do this is by having the expectations of what our patients think is going to happen when they come in, and the reality of what does happen be in alignment. When there's a disconnect there, that's when we get unhappy patients. That's when we get conflict. It really, I mean, we talk about this in our ACT meetings all the time. Hey, this is an E-R moment. It's such an important tool to utilize. And when we start thinking about this important topic, like decreasing our dependency on PPOs, how we communicate with our patients, how we communicate what they should expect as we go forward is going to be so important, so we don't have unnecessary conflict as we move through this process.
Yeah, I love that. And also, I would use this in your personal life with your friends, your family. Sarah mentions this all the time, E-R=C. Anytime you ever experience conflict with anyone, most specifically the people that are most important to you, you can see there was a gap between what the expectations were and what the reality was. And if you know the formula, you can actually start to fix this. And one of the great team members we have, Dr. Behrendt, he's a dentist in Port Washington, Wisconsin, was a client and now is part of our team. He has a core value. It's called no surprises. And one of the things that he enjoys about dentistry the most is that there's no surprises with patients. Patients know exactly what to expect. Now, he is a fee-for-service practice, doesn't accept a dime of insurance, and that's a core principle that helps him create great relationships with patients. They know exactly what to expect, and then when they come in and they experience the practice, it's exactly what we promised them. And great brands do that very, very well. So make sure that you're always practicing that. Number 2 is ask, listen, and repeat. Now, tell us why we're going to use this one all day long.
A simple 3-step process really that helps us build trust and build great relationships with our patients. One of the most important things that I think we can do in life and that I coach is that we always need to seek to understand before we try to be understood. And a great way to do this is to ask questions, lean in and be curious and really listen for the answer, want to hear the answer. And then a great way to build layer trust and value, when someone tells you something, repeat it back to them, get clarity, let them know, hey, I listened to you, I heard you. So this ask, listen, repeat process over and over and over again. Anytime we're coaching teams, anytime you're talking to patients about treatment, you're presenting this new idea about a shift in dental insurance, dental benefits to them. Ask them if they understand. Ask them if they have questions. Listen and repeat back to them what they said so you can ensure understanding and continue to just build trust with your patients.
Absolutely. And stay curious all the time. Our favorite team members that we see that do an extraordinary job of converting patients, creating value, they are authentically curious. I heard you say this, Jay. Don't just ask questions just to ask questions. Like, we're trying to gain the responses or earn the responses of why they're calling us in the first place. Here's a great example. Everybody should have this on their new patient slip in some format, you should know why us, why now. Just constantly be thinking, why are you calling us and why now? And so always be thinking about how we creatively ask those questions, because if you really slow down and listen, you're going to learn a lot about your patient long before they come in, and you're going to be able to help them long before they come in. So, and then the third one, framework C, is language creates value. Now, I love this one. Tell us why this is so important.
I mean, really, everything that we say or don't say is contributing to the value of what we do. We're putting into the room how important our treatment is. We're putting into the room how much we trust our doctors, how much we trust our team members. Value is one of the most important things that as coaches here, we teach our teams and our doctors to convey. We have to believe in what we do. Doctors, we have to help our team members believe in what we do. You know, the truth about value is that we all have choices. We have choices on where we spend our money. We have choices on the doctors that we see. You know, we shouldn't make assumptions that people won't value the amazing services that we provide for them just because we're not in network with their dental benefits carrier, right?
Right.
We have to believe and really utilize consistent language about the investments that people are making in our practice. Yeah. So they value as much as we value what's going on.
Right. And I love this. So please write this down somewhere in this handout. Your technical skills will not determine how far you go in dentistry. Your ability to communicate will determine how far you go in dentistry with your team, with your patients, and over again. It's your ability to communicate clearly and build value for what you do that's going to determine how far you go in dentistry. So be extra committed to the language. And we see this all the time. So if you're watching this webinar right now and you're like, you don't understand, Kirk, I got 5,000 PPO patients in my office and you're talking about fee for service. I'm not talking about going completely fee for service. If you choose to do that, great. And you'll find it's a fun way to practice. But you're going to see that the people that do that, they did one thing. They were committed to the behavioral aspect of it. It wasn't a cost issue. It was behavioral. It was about getting really good about getting clear about what they do, getting really good at communication, and then they are really good at creating value. You see it at great restaurants. Why would you spend 5 times as much at your favorite restaurant, which is a French restaurant, and the guy comes or the woman comes to the table and describes the dish and says it is a frit, and you're like, and they use all these words to describe how the beef is prepared. They're creating value for you, and you say to yourself, wow, that is often sounds exciting. So you don't have to go over the top, but the point is this, is that the better you are at communicating, the better you use language, the more value you're going to create, because people will pay for things that they value. And it's your challenge to create great value. And it only happens through great communication. So love this, love this. So let's keep going. And then, the thing about steps or ways is we want you to look at this. This is a methodical process. The thing I would say before we show you all these steps and get into it, reducing influence in PPOs is not an emotional thing. And for years, now I've been doing this for 25, 26 years. I remember days years ago where people would I hate Delta. And then they would just write a letter and they get off of it. And some of them would do okay. They would just get rid of all that patient base that they didn't want or they didn't enjoy, and they made it work. They learned to swim without floaties, and that was okay. Nowadays, that's probably not the smartest thing to do, and you can send yourself down a rabbit hole getting really angry about insurance, and that's why this is very much a strategic, logical numbers game. You got to think through all of this, and part of the thinking is you may not be ready to do this. So Jenni, tell us about the number one step in making sure that you move away from PPOs?
I mean, really, like you said, you might not be ready, and it's not a decision to make hastily. The first thing that you really need to do is determine your readiness, right? You need to look at the data. You need to look at the numbers that are true in your practice. We like to say data removes all emotion. Don't make this decision based on emotion. Make it based on the data. What's true in your practice, knowing what is the potential outcome. So, I mean, you've got to really do some work here, put in the work, look at the numbers so you know how you're going to respond to this shift.
Yeah, we get these calls all the time, not so much recently, but in years past. I remember a great dentist calling me, and she had been through a lot of training, and she says, I'm done. I wrote the letter. I'm done. I'm like, why are you calling me then? She's like, because I'm just done with that and quote unquote insurance. I'm like, okay, do you know how many patients? No, I'm not doing it anymore. Well, we pulled the data, and it was almost 50% of her patient base. And then she's like, oh no. And I'm like, oh gosh, now we were able to recover, but that is a long road. And so a couple of the questions you got to ask yourself is, number one, here's what it really asks. Do your patients come to you because of you? That's a great question. Or do they come to you because they're on your plan? Now, if they come to you because you're on their plan, now we got a little bit more extra work to do. We're not stuck there, but I want to know, do they come to you because of you? And that's your challenge long-term, is creating a practice that does that. The other question you got to ask yourself is, what if I lost every patient? You do have to ask that question, because some people often value their insurance benefits a lot, and they do, and we can't be the negative naysayers. We have to be an insurance friendly practice. Doesn't mean we need to accept it, but those patients of yours that you care about a lot, they've paid for those benefits. They don't know any better. And so if they're bringing an enemy with them that you consider an enemy, that becomes a bad proposition. So don't think like that. Every patient you have to your practice is a wonderful human being, and they might have benefits, but there's also the chance that they may go PPO where only they can use their benefits. So what happens if you lost all of them? Also, the cash thing is huge. I'm a firm believer that you got to have enough cash on hand. You should have at least 3 months of operating expenses for your business in place before you start to do any heavy transition. If you don't have any cash in place, you're putting your entire business and the people that you work for in a very vulnerable position because you're just doing it emotionally. You should also have a year's worth of your salary saved so that if the worst thing happens, you can say to yourself, I can stay off a salary for a full year until my business gets back on its feet. And then if your schedule was consistently full, would I rather decrease my participation or add hours? These are really important things. These are like dials that you got to play with, is that if I decrease my participation, am I ready for the unintended circumstances or other circumstances that I'm ready for or whatever? And then the other piece of it is that, what kind of procedures do you want to be performing? Are these going to be discretionary type procedures where patients have to make value decisions, reach into their pocket and pay beyond what their benefits would cover? So, Jenni, anything else you'd add?
Yeah, one other thing I was just thinking about that I want to throw in there, right? We have to shift beliefs before we shift behaviors. So are you ready to let go of the limiting belief that you cannot only survive but thrive without heavy PPO dependency? Your past does not need to dictate your future. Kirk, what do we know the most expensive words in business are?
Yeah, write this down. The 7 most expensive words in business ever are "that's the way we've always done it." Now, I don't want to send you down a rabbit hole. I don't want you to get angry by this statement, but there are a lot of dentists that I talk to, our coaches talk to, that we even start coaching and we look at their write-offs and they're writing off a third of everything. And I say to them, you are working 1 out of every 3 days for free. And they get really angry. And I say, don't stay there. We're going to go to 1 out of every 4 days for free, then 1 out of every 5 days for free. But the truth of the future of dental insurance is it's not in your best interest. Insurance companies aren't going to wake up and have a reckoning and go, you know what, we feel really bad. Guys, what do you think? This has been real. I think we should start giving these people money back, and
they're
really
for-profit businesses.
Yeah, they're for-profit business. It has nothing to do with health care. It's health cost that they're trying to manage. So make sure that you have your best interests at heart when you're building a future. Now, the other thing too, just think about this. Some of you watching this have 3 decades of practice in front of 3. What a great opportunity to go, look, I'm not going to get off of it, but I'm going to start lessening the influence and I'm going to start saving money. I'm going to start practicing the way I want to practice. My spouse has been all over me that we haven't taken a vacation. I'm going to start planning on vacations. The other thing I would say about insurance heavy practices, now it doesn't make them bad, but it's something to consider. When you're insurance heavy practice, you have to do volume. You have to have the extra op. You got to crank it up. You have to have the extra person at the front. You have to have the extra resources. You have to do the extra marketing. You have to crank it up in order to make money on insurances. Now, it's okay because some people are up for that game. They know how to play that game. But my guess is that if you're watching this because of the title, you don't want to play that game. So those are all things you need to consider when asking yourselves the question, where do I go from here in these 5 different steps. Step number 2 is you're going to want to gather the data. Like Jenni said, data removes all emotion, and this is an important one. And some of the things that you're going to want to gather is how many active patients do I have? An active patient is an appointment that you've had in the last 18 months. So tell us about some of the data you're going to find when you start to pull this information, Jenni.
So really, we want to know how many patients do we have in the practice? Oftentimes dentists will skip this step and they're going to go, well, I've got 2,500 patients that are listed in my practice, but only 1,000 of them have been in the last 18 months, right? So we really need to know who are considered to be active patients in the practice. Who has come in that we are going to have to include in this analysis? Kirk, why don't you pull up that slide that's going to kind of show. So there's a lot of data here that we want to look at. So we're looking at active patients. Then we want to look at, of those active patients, how many of them are on each insurance plan? that we have. We really want to start breaking this down. And what I want you to see here is this is a lot of data. This is a lot of work. Get your spreadsheet on, pull this out, list every plan, and start going through the data. How many active patients do I have? Of those active patients, how many are on each insurance plan? We want to see the breakdown here. Want you to start listing out the contracted fee for each of them in this spreadsheet. We want to start really looking at what are we losing? What is the potential gap? What is the gap that we have that we can start to close on each insurance plan? Talk a little bit about this sheet here, Kirk. You are muted.
Sorry, I put myself on mute so I don't like go crazy. But Sandy Hudson is a great friend of ours, Teresa Duncan also too, of the ACT community. And there's a ton of great resources out there. And one of the things that we do is continuous education on our side of things. And so Sandy helped me understand this years ago. Like don't pull a report based on insurance plan. That's not really giving you accurate information. What you want to do is based on procedure code and how many procedures you're actually doing. So what we want to take a look at is how many procedures. That shows us exactly how insurance dependent you are. A great example I have of this is we coach a spear doctor who's going through spear education, fabulous practice, very big practice, and comes to us and says, 20% of my practice is this insurance. I want to get rid of it. Well, what he didn't understand was 44% of his chair time was that insurance. And he was like, oh my gosh, you really do need to know how dependent your practice is. And you can do a breakdown of this. And you can also see if this might be the better fit. This is an analysis of a practice that we worked with in Utah, great dentist. And we just did a simple analysis. Now, he wasn't ready to get off of PPOs completely, but he did do some adjustments. And in about 1 day's time, the net gain was about $44,000 in revenue that came back just by adjusting some of the things that he had signed up for. So the data is really important. So again, you want to look at how this applies to your practice and breaks down from chair time, from procedures. So you're going to want to break it down as far as procedures go and your amount of chair time that's involved with all of those.
Chair time and capacity is an important thing here, right? So
absolutely.
As we look at these metrics, how many active patients do I have? How many active patients, have had an appointment in the last 18 months? How many of them have insurance? Breakdown with each insurance plan. Then we also want to be thinking about, okay, what is my actual capacity in the practice right now? If patients are waiting weeks and weeks and months to get in for an appointment with you, you're going to be able to make these shifts and absorb these changes easier, right? If your hygiene is booked out 7, 8, 9 months, the capacity, you are in a better place from a capacity standpoint to start to think about making these changes now.
Right.
But if your books are open, if you're really struggling to get new patients in, then you need to think more critically about the timing of these shifts.
Absolutely.
Capacity is important.
Yeah. And again, if you need help with this is one of the things that we'll absolutely sit down and help you do. Now, you're going to see one of the steps here is review the contract for each plan. Now, this is fascinating to me. Whenever I ask a dentist, where's your contract? They go, what contract? I'm like, you signed a contract. That's step number one. Whenever you sign an agreement, make sure you have it and you review it on a regular basis. You can't just sign it one time and then put it into a Dropbox folder somewhere. You have to review it on a regular basis. Here's why. There are something that are called shared agreements. Write that in the box and Google shared agreements. What shared agreements are is that you have one insurance company that is starting to work with another insurance company and they share agreements. Now, you would never know that. You wouldn't have any idea. And they inform you in the small print that you don't even look at, you throw it in the trash, and it isn't what you originally signed up for. So you've got to review that. And what's really sad about how tricky this game is more than ever is that the only way you're ever going to know if your insurance company is working on a shared agreement is auditing EOBs. And it's really sad, but that's a regular process you've got to start implementing. I mean, we've been doing this forever. We don't even understand it. It gets so complex sometimes. But if you audit an EOB on a regular basis, now you don't have to do all of them, but do a couple of them every week or every month, you're going to see there's discrepancies. You're going to go, I didn't sign up for that. What the heck is that? And as you can guess, you're not going to get the better of the 2 fee schedules. You're going to get the what of 2 fee, the less of 2 fee. So number one, know where your contract is. Review it on a regular basis. Take a look at EOBs just randomly, regularly, whatever, just to make sure that you are signed up for what you originally signed up for. And then another piece that's really important of this whole analysis thing is you got to know your fees. Well, number one, you got to know where your fees are, your full fees are, how they relate to your zip code, area code, whatever. And then you've got to renegotiate your fees, contracted fees, if possible. Some of them will let you do it. Some of them won't. At the very least, you are going to want to obtain a fee analysis from NDAS and just know where you're at. Now, if you don't know how to do that, we do that. So you can reach out to us and we're happy to help you with that. But I see it all the time with great young practitioners, people that have been to Pankey or they've been to Dawson. I'm like, you're in the 40th percentile. And they go, no, I'm not. I'm like, yes, you are. We got to get you into the percentiles that you deserve to be. Don't compete with the bottom. When you're doing comprehensive dentistry and you value what you do, your fees have to be commensurate with your area code, zip code, and your fee is not a competitive thing. It is a little bit just because you want to know the data, but really it's based on your skill, care, judgment, ability to create value, all those things. So keep that in mind. Anything else you'd say on this component, Jenny?
Yeah, I mean, a big part of this, and we're going to shift into this, prioritizing how you're going to make changes and when you're going to make them. Another reason that we want you to review the contract, you might be in year 2 of a 5-year contract. So let's shift the priority on that plan to renegotiating if possible, or put that on the back burner and start to look at maybe actions that I can take with other plans, right? I mean, so again, it's so important to know all of the little nuances, because you can't take smart action without knowing where you stand.
Absolutely. Now, again, I'm not the world's expert on this, but if you're an associate watching this right now and you're thinking about buying a practice, you need to talk to an expert before you buy a practice. Here's why. Because you might be thinking the person you're buying the practice, that's a Delta Premier practice. Well, no. You will not be buying a Delta Premier practice. You, my friend, will be on the lesser of the 2 plans because the provider, it's provider specific. And I've run into the situation too many times where people buy a practice and they think, oh gosh, I'm getting that plan. And then they realize, no, I'm not getting that plan. And they go, oh no, I have to work twice as hard. And there are other states, which I won't name also, which are on the higher tier of a premier plan. And that plan is going away and they don't even need to be notified. They're just told we're taking that plan away. You got to be ready for anything that comes your way. And the only thing that removes this emotion is data. You've been doing your data plan. You've been working your plan. You know what's going to happen and how this is all going to work. Step number 3 is you're going to want to create a list of what plans to drop and what time is to do that best. So Jenny, tell us about this one.
Yep. So once, we've gathered our metrics, we've looked at this data, we know how many patients we have, we know what percentage of our active patients are on an insurance plan, we know what percentage our collections are from this insurance plan. We also want to know, we failed to mention, this is a key one, write this down. How many new patients do I have coming in each month from that plan, right? So when we look at all this data, now we can prioritize. We can start, let's take the list. Who do I get the least amount of patients, the least amount of revenue from? And that's where I'm going to begin. And you're going to do these one at a time. This is a process, depending on how many plans you have. If you want to go all fee for service, which might not be the right thing for you, it might. If you are in network with a number of plans, this is a multi-year process, right? It's something that we slowly transition from, but we need to have a plan in place to start doing this. Write it out, have your steps, work through each one, because it's going to be important that you communicate with each patient that is going to be affected by this shift. And we're going to get into that. And that's why moving through these in a very specific order is going to be important. If we just try to drop them all at once, we're not going to be able to communicate with patients. We're not going to be able to really assess what's happening because of one shift versus another. So get a plan in place.
Yeah, so I like to think of it as titration. We're going to adjust the pressure on the practice. We're not just going to cut it off, but maybe we might adjust the pressure on each one of them. And Jenni, you and I were talking about a practice. There was a case study. Tell them about the case study in which somebody actually wasn't even eligible, and its impact on the practice was tremendous. Can you tell us about that?
And this is that idea about limiting beliefs. So because of a clerical error, a doctor had fallen out of network with a plan, right? And they didn't know. They didn't tell their patients, and they lost none of their patients. They didn't find out.
None of that's fascinating. Tell us why. Why do they have?
Because we make such a big deal about it. We're so nervous about what's going to happen that we put that anxiety and that pressure on our team members, and then we convey that anxiety to our patients, and they think, oh my gosh, you've dropped my insurance. I got this letter about insurance and now I can't come there, and then they're gone. Right. So, I am not advocating for this process, right? But it's just goes to show that, the way we present things, the negativity of how we present things often can have a much greater impact than we believe is possible.
Absolutely. A couple things to write down. The more you talk about insurance, the more they think about insurance. I flew to a practice in upstate New York, Panky guy, great guy. He's like, I got to get off insurance. It's killing me. So I sat in his practice and he's like, hey, I'm trying to get off it. Well, I listened to his team member answer the phone and she said the word insurance probably 6 or 7 times. Do you have your insurance? Do you know what kind of insurance you have? Well, what kind of insurance? You bring in your insurance card. I was thinking, if I don't have insurance, I better get some insurance before I come to this practice. So it's not about discarding it. It's about focusing on the patient. The less you focus on their insurance, the less they will focus on the insurance. And then Jenni, another thing that you said prior to us going on, you talked about the marketing expense. Like one of the things you want to consider is that this is a marketing expense. And really, do you want to give away that much money for something like this when you're doing an analysis?
Right. That's a shift, like shifting the way you think about this. If I challenge you, I want you to look at your insurance write-offs as marketing. As something that you're paying for marketing, because that's really what insurance is telling you, right? You accept a lesser fee and I will bring you patients. Right. Would you ever give a 30% budget to a marketing company?
No.
I don't think you would, right?
No,
so
you wouldn't.
If you are, are you willing to give a 30% fee to a dental insurance company that's bringing you 1 or 2 patients a month that are going to leave just as quickly as they came?
Right.
We need to start to shift the way we look at things so we can change the way we communicate about them.
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of times the pre-work that you can do for this is just think about your schedule a little bit better and not necessarily just open it wide open to the less desirable insurance. So let me give you an example. Let's say you do create a list of the plans you want to drop. The step isn't necessarily just to drop it. You might still want to honor some of these patients, have a chance to communicate with them, and you could start to think better about your schedule. Now, you do want to treat each one of these patients with the same dignity, respect, all those things. But really, I want you to think about this. Please write this down. There isn't a single law in the United States that tells you how to spend your time. When you get really good at how you're going to spend your time, you can start focusing your energy on which patients you feel like might be the best, and you treat everybody with respect. But your time is the single biggest variable to seeing how well you can produce more or be more effective or just have a better life long term. And so it's very important that your team is involved in all that preparation. Now, step number 4 is you're going to want to prepare your team. So remember, we're going to decide if we're even ready for this. And then number 2, we're going to gather all the data. And wait, we forgot about membership programs. Go back to membership programs. And Katie, I'm so glad you mentioned that in the chat. Yes, we will cover that. I'm going to say this prematurely because I believe in them so much. If you don't have a membership program for your practice, you are just being negligent or silly, or you have been living under a rock. The whole world works on memberships. Costco's a membership, Amazon's a membership, Netflix is a membership, Disney Plus is a membership, everything. Could you imagine a country club without a membership? They would go broke. Memberships are secure, they're stable. Jenni, tell us about membership programs.
I mean, this is such an amazing tool to utilize in the pre-planning work when you're thinking about transitioning away from insurance, right? With insurance plans come waiting periods, come huge write-offs. They dictate care, and patients often don't get the care that they need because their insurance plan told them otherwise, right? Membership plan lets you control this, and it lets your patients get the care that they need while you're keeping everything in-house.
Right.
Also, evergreen income, right? Kirk,
Yeah, I mean, you wake up.
Rolling.
Yeah, I think one of the things to do is this is something I feel pretty strongly about, but don't think about this. Just do it and set a goal to get to 50, then get to 100, then get to 200, then assess it once you get to 200. Because I ask people when I was speaking in public places, and I ask people all the time, who's got a membership program? They raise their hand. I go, who loves it? And then everybody keeps it. Who doesn't love it? A few hands would go up, and I go, why didn't it work? Well, we didn't get it off the ground. Well, how many did you get? Well, we had 3. No, you didn't really try it. You got to try it, and you'll see you're going to get to a critical mass. These are retaining patients. These are patients that are coming to you, and you are the only you're the only doctor in the plan. Guess who's the administrator of the plan? You. These patients also have family members who have teeth, hopefully. And there's a tremendous opportunity. And also when you get to a point where you're going to transition your practice, a big part of your practice value is going to be based on patients that are alive and are active patients. And there's no greater way to do that than a membership plan. So you've got to do a membership plan. Now, Katie, I don't know who Katie is, but you're asking something. I love when you ask great questions. Katie said, should you have a membership program in place prior to dropping out of your networks? Absolutely. I would say this is independent of dropping out of networks. You should have a membership plan. And here's some we're going to do a whole separate one on membership plans, but one of the things come up, people are like, well, why would I want to give away something in order to get that? Well, we're going to do what's called a fee adjustment at the end of the year. And I promise you, I'll do it with you personally. Let's take a look at what you gave away in order to get what you got. And I guarantee you, we can always make it a good thing for your practice and your patients. It just requires some very good analysis. So I say start it regardless, just get going. Now, another thing, Katie, you asked about is what was the stat in regards to doctors doing free data industry? I've seen this for more than 20 years. We have doctors that are fee for service, but they still do public service dentistry. But they do it on a specific day because they feel like that's their responsibility, and they pick a day to do it, and they tell everybody, but they're super clear with not only their team, their patients, and who's on that particular plan. What a great way to think about it. I don't have a stat, but I've seen it for years where doctors are like, no, that's the day we give back, or that's the day we do that. And Jenni, you've seen that before in dentistry, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I wanted to mention one other thing about membership plans, and take a page from the insurance companies. Look at this as a way to go out into your community, go to some small businesses and say, hey, do you want to add some benefits for your employees in a really cost-effective way? Encourage small businesses to purchase your membership plan for their employees, right?
Absolutely.
Take a hold of that and steal that playbook from the dental insurance companies and use that to grow your patient base.
Absolutely. Another question came up from Katie. Again, are all insurance companies negotiating fees right now? No, there are only a few, and there are some other ones, which I won't name, who are like, we don't care. No, our fees are fees. So you do want to be cognizant of who is and who isn't. It used to be years ago that all of them were open to it. And now some of them have closed the door, and they don't really care if you don't want to participate, because they're trying to get as many doctors on contracted with them directly or indirectly as possible. So keep that in mind.
Provider services, that's who you're going to want to contact. Look at your contract, call up the company. There's provider services. There's someone that is dedicated to keeping you there. So that's who you're going to want to talk to. If they allow you to negotiate, you're only allowed to do it every so often. But get in contact with provider services at the insurance companies. That's who is going to be your advocate there if you are able to do it.
Right. And Nagy asked the question, is this being recorded? Yes, it's being recorded. So you'll get the replay afterwards. So happy to do that. And then the membership webinar, again, great question. We will let you know. I don't have a date for that, but Jenny, that's a great idea to create one, because we could do 2 hours on that one. I believe in it so much. Now, after you've
2 hours on that one.
Absolutely. Now, after you've done those 3 steps, we're going to move to step number 4, which is we're going to start preparing the practice and the team to start these steps. And tell us about these 3. I'm very opinionated on these first 3, but tell us about the letters not being the best form of initial contact.
So, oftentimes, you talked about this earlier. I sent the letter and, damned with the insurance and, I'm dropping them. That's not how we want to communicate. That's not a value builder, right? That's that enemy mentality. So letters are good for the patients that we are not able to communicate face-to-face with. But the best way to do this is really, when we have that list, be really diligent in your morning huddle. Identify every day in your morning huddle what patients are coming in today that are on X, Y, and Z plan that we are going out of network with, and have a face-to-face value building conversation with them, right? Don't just make insurance the bad guy. Make them the value, make the value about the patients. Some good verbiage, I want to share an important decision that's going to impact you. Every patient in the practice is important to us. You are important to us. We are so grateful that we have the opportunity to serve you. We've made a difficult decision to go out of network with X, Y, and Z insurance. And, we will still file all claims for you as you've been used to. Sally up front, Sally's going to send those claims every day like she always has. You'll still receive excellent care. You want to have this conversation face to face before a cold letter comes in the mail.
Absolutely. And I apologize. They're doing construction right outside my window, if you can hear all that, but it never fails. Like, they start it right away. But here's a couple things to think about. Please write this down. You have to be an insurance friendly office. Make sure you always have that mindset. Just we love our patients, and we honor and love the fact that you have a benefit of some kind. And then another thing you can say to any patient at any time is, Mrs. Jones, our first concern is your health. Our doctor is an amazing doctor. She is awesome. Her treatment recommendations are always based on the health of the patient, never on the limitations of a benefit. Now, we're going to help you with those benefits, don't get me wrong, but our first concern is always you. A question you want to ask yourself in team meetings is, are we relational or are we transactional? Because if you're heavy in the insurance, I'll promise you, you're transactional. Relational is all about communicating about the patient, about how we are focused on you, not necessarily the other things that are going on. One more thing, please write this down. Nobody ever reads a letter, ever. You don't read letters. When you get a letter, you skim letters. I skim every letter, skim. And my first thought is, I'm skimming it to see if I should read it. And if it's of importance and it's something I want to read, I will read it. So when people skim your letter that's on insurance and you've written it out because you have all the data about 1970 when the first dental insurance program was done, and how it was $1,000 and now it should be $7,000. All they see is, you cannot come to our practice anymore. We have kicked you out. It is your time to find another provider. Take your lousy insurance and go to another lousy dentist who's less lousy than us, because we won't take that little lousy benefit. Don't do that. Don't do that.
We just got a great chat. Ginger saying patients don't read letters properly. I sent out a letter when I was going on maternity leave. I lost patients because they thought I had retired or sold the practice.
That's a great, yeah, even when you retire, don't even do that. You don't send a letter. Please don't ever send a letter for anything. You're going to hand a letter to somebody after you've described it in the most simple terms. So, and I don't even know that I would do that. So
I know. We're building value, we're building relationships, right? Back to that listening to people and value. Do people feel valued when they get a letter saying, hey, I dropped the insurance plan that has given you benefits? No. I mean, it's totally devaluing. Make every effort that you possibly can to have face-to-face conversations. And during the entire time that you are going through this process, I encourage you to set a small amount of time in your morning huddle to identify all of those patients that are in that day to have this conversation with.
yeah, no. So Jenni, I'm going to throw this one at you. Stephen Beard asked this question. Great one, Stephen. Thank you. So should you anticipate this 6 months ahead of time, since hygiene recall is every 6 months usually? So if you're thinking about this, do you want to think of this in 6 month intervals? I mean, what would be your thought?
I mean, the interval, it's going to vary based on the type of practice that you are. Yes, but I will tell you, insurance companies typically are going to also require some sort of notice, which could be 30, 60, 90 days. So just by entering into this process, you're going to have time to sort of go through it. But absolutely, you want to look at how many patients there are that you're going to need to be communicating with. Right? If you're looking at a plan, you have 10 active patients on an insurance plan, you don't need a 6-month lead to communicate and drop those 10, drop the insurance that those 10 patients have. If it's 500, right, we're going to have a lot more lead time. It's going to take a lot more time to communicate with those 500 patients. But hey, if I've got 10, 15, 20 patients, maybe they're coming in over 6 months, I, as the doctor, can also make a personal phone call to those patients. A personal phone call is a huge value builder.
Oh,
right?
absolutely. Absolutely.
So the data is going to give you, that's why it's so important to know how many patients, because that's going to help you with timing here.
Absolutely. I love what you're saying. I think the important thing to remember is that any changes, this is the importance of having great meetings, having a great plan in place. You're never just winging it. You're sitting down, doing the data analysis, then you go to your team, then you plan, then you talk to the patient first, then you let them know what's coming. Remember, E minus R equals C. I don't care if it's, we have a lot of people that change their hours from 8 to 5 with a lunch to 7 to 3. It's very important that they don't get that from a memo, from an email, from a post. You can say to them, Mrs. Jones, a couple things you can expect on your next visit. We've made some improvements to how we take care of our practice, and here is what you can expect next time. You want to tell them what's going to happen in anything, and then it's exactly like you described it. But now I've got the opportunity to do a heart-to-heart, face-to-face, retain the patient, answer any questions. And you know this, if you've been doing this long enough, you can look in the eyes of the patients and go, okay, tell me what you're thinking. Or here's a great question. Mrs. Jones, I've shared a lot of information with you. Tell me what you heard, or tell me how you understand, or tell me what you understand about what we discussed. You're going to be fascinated, and you can help the patients. Remember, each one of these patients has they're hugely important to you in your future. And so, Stephen, I love your question, and he wanted to know if there's enough time to warn the patients before the letter. Please, a letter should never, ever inform your patient about anything. It should be a person, then a letter that's probably handed to them personally. So I hate the mail. I'm going to say this out loud. I hate the mail so much, I don't even get the mail. I tell the kids to go get the mail because there's only one thing in the mail: bad news or bills, or there's nothing good in the mail. And if there's something good in the mail, it's usually from Amazon, or it's a handwritten card or a book from a friend. Like, I'm not opening up mail from any healthcare provider or anybody for any reason unless I know it's going to be good news. So I don't know. I'm getting older now. I'm just going to say it like it is. But step 5 is we're going to start communicating over and over and over again. This isn't a step. This is a continual process. You never stop developing people around you. Now, let me say this out loud too. Please, doctors, if you're watching this and you're watching this by yourself, You got to think a little bit better than that. You know, you spend 25 to 30% of your revenue on those amazing assets called your team. If you had a piece of equipment that took up 25 to 30% of your revenue, I'm quite certain you would have a lot of training on that piece of equipment. This asset that you have, your team, invest heavily into training them. It'll come back in spades. Like, it's the best money that you'll ever invest ever. So when it comes to communication, when it comes to verbal skills, when it comes to getting us all aligned, remember, every time you improve a process, build a system, do it, you're saving hundreds and hundreds of hours in the future. You're also equipping your team, because when we talk about step number 5, this is what most team members are left to. The doctor goes, go. And the team member goes, go where? And the doctor goes, up front. And they go, to do what? Just do your thing. And now they're equipped with nothing. And they try to do the best they can. And then E minus R equals C, you get mad at them because they weren't the right fit. No, it's our job to make sure they have the right tools, tips, thinking, framework, everything, so that they make sure your team members are equipped with the tools for success. And that's what step number 5 is about. We're going to start practicing this communication, and nothing induces anxiety or frustration in a dental office quite like conversations around dental insurance. People hate it. Team members hate it. Doctors hate it. So tell us about this when it comes to the insurance conversation.
Yeah. A lot of the anxiety comes from lack of knowledge, lack of understanding about the ins and outs. Really, and just basic things like UCR fees and write-offs and, the verbiage around dental plans. We make the assumption that team members come in just knowing everything about dental benefits. Why would they, right? We have to ensure that they understand. We have to educate them. We have to, as a team, spend time learning so we can intelligibly communicate with our patients what's going on. Spend time in meetings, practice talking about these things. Practice, practice, practice.
Yeah.
We've been using this word over and over again, but the number one takeaway that, the number one thing that you can do immediately, action item to do tomorrow, stop saying insurance.
Right.
It's not insurance. It's a benefit plan. Remove that word from your vocabulary and begin shifting your team's mindset and slowly shifting your patient's mindsets away from this insurance plan that they carry, which is not insurance at all.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And so this time, you have to know there's a difference between medical benefits and dental benefits. So that's a great webinar that you need to spend time with your team. Also, the 2 questions, are you on my plan? And are you, in network? Those are 2 completely different situations, and you need to know the ins and outs. And maybe that's another topic for another webinar. But I think it's really important that your team is equipped with understanding this instead of a negative aura around these concepts, and because that's what they're going to come out. And remember, what you focus on grows. So if you're focusing on the negativity, you're going to have a very negative air in your practice around that. But if you're focusing on, look, we're really trying to help patients understand this, and we value the fact that they have benefits, and we let them know, you can always come here. We'll walk you through the details. Now, the other thing too, I got to say this out loud, and I'm not putting anyone in the corner. There are people out there that teach, just get the patient in. And you can see it for years. You've seen it for years. Patients feel really angry when they're slighted, and they think you are in network and you will accept their benefits as payment. You don't want to mislead patients. I think it's really important. You're super honest with them. You're super upfront. And you let them know, hey, look, we don't take that as direct payment. But I'll tell you what, let's do this. Let's have you come in and first visit, no charge. We will help you with the details of how all that works. And if you don't find this is your dental home, that's totally okay. We honor that, we respect that, but there's no foul, no harm in coming in and meeting our amazing doctor. But we know once you get here, you're not going to want to go anywhere else. Would you guys agree with this? If you're watching this webinar, I hope you agree. If we get them here, they're going to stay for the most part. Don't kill them before they even give you the opportunity. Here's another one. Do you take that to the dental? Like, don't go, don't get into this. Wow, I don't participate directly with them. You might as well say no and just hang up, because that's how effective that is. Slow the process down. If somebody asks a question, you don't participate, say, Mrs. Jones, so glad you asked that question. Can I have your name? I always love to know who I'm talking to, because I want you to know one thing. You're talking to the right person. So if somebody calls your office and says, do you take MetLife? Don't say, no, we don't participate. You might as well just hang up those phone calls. Just actually don't even answer them. Just hang them up, because that's how effective they are. Now, I'm kidding. You don't want to do that. But what about the whole thing of saying, hey, slow down, Mrs. Jones. Hey, can I ask you a question? Or say, can I ask your name? I'd love to know your name. I always love to know who I'm talking to, Miss Jones, because I want you to know you're talking to the right person. Here's another way to slow it down. Slow it down and say, Mrs. Jones, that is a great question. Can you tell me a little bit about why you asked that question? Sounds like that is very important to you. You're going to go, patients are going to go, that's crazy. No one's even asked. Yeah, my husband works at the plant, and I know that we have this. And you can say the feel, felt, found. So Jenni, once you talk about it, you can say, Mrs. Jones, we have a lot of patients that feel that way, and understand. We have a lot of patients that work at the plant that also come here. And let me share with you what we do in our amazing. So talk about feel, felt, found.
I love feel, felt, found. Write that down, everyone. Write down feel, felt, found. And as you transition through this process, it is a great way to have conversations with patients. People want to be heard. They want to know they're not the first. And they want to understand that it's going to be okay. Mrs. Jones, I understand. I feel you. I know that your insurance benefits are really important to you. And I'm going to help you maximize those benefits. We are an insurance friendly practice here. We will file insurances for you. Many of our patients have felt this anxiety about what they think is going to happen when this transition goes. And what they have found is that the process has been seamless. They've been able to get great care here, and they've had a very small shift in their out-of-pocket investment, right? You want to make them be a part of a group. People don't want to go first. They want to be heard. They want to be a part of a group. They don't want to go first, and they want to know that it's going to be okay. I feel you. Others have felt this too, and they've found that it's okay.
I love that. I absolutely love that. So, and also, I got a private message on this. LA, can you post the PDF again? A couple people asking because they have to go back to patients. Now, reminder, just as we're going through this, I want this to be a very valuable webinar for you. So we will have this for a recording. We will provide the PDF. So if you have to run to a patient, go ahead, come back, revisit this later with a team, with your team members, because we're going to get into the meat of the actual verbal skills now too. So Jenni, talk about the word insurance and how we're going to remove that from our vocabulary and make that a practice.
So we said that, right? I said that's the number one thing that you can do immediately. It's not insurance. Insurance is for catastrophes. That is what insurance is, right? Insurance was founded by Benjamin Franklin to help in the US. That's when it first came, for people that were losing their houses due to fire. It's about catastrophic loss. This is not insurance. It's a benefit. It's a coupon that's going to assist slightly, right? One of my favorite phrases is your dental benefits are going to help you maintain, but not obtain, your oral health. So we want to shift mindset around that. It's a small benefit. It's a coupon. It's a line of credit that will run out. It is not catastrophic insurance, and it is certainly not in alignment with what people expect from medical insurance. So let's change that. Let's eliminate that word right away and start referring to it as benefits. Take insurance off of your paperwork, right? This is a hard one that you'll go back to over and over and over again. But, like put a swear jar in your in your lab, and every time someone says insurance, throw in a nickel. It's going to fill up pretty soon.
Absolutely. Now, remember, give yourself a little grace on this. This is a practice, no different than yoga or whatever. You're not going to get this right. I even catch myself. And as we were preparing for the webinar, Jenni's like, remember, don't say the word insurance. I'm like, oh, shoot, I got to remember. It's always something you've got to be practicing. So benefits, 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 benefits. So over and over again. Now, the other verbal skill that's really important is don't ever say the word no. Yes is always the right answer for any questions. Like, do you guys have unicorns? Yes. No, I mean, Again, I'm having fun with this one, but you're going to get some difficult questions, and you don't want to say the word no, because a lot of times after the word no, people don't hear what you have to say. So Jenni, why is yes the right answer?
Yeah, and I think about this as yes or positivity, right? Again, remember, people are going to keep coming back to using their benefits because it's something they paid for, and they need you to be an advocate for them. So answer the insurance question always with a positive response about using my insurance. Yes, my team can help you understand how benefits work in our office. Yes, we are an insurance-friendly practice. We will submit claims to all dental providers. These are all true statements, right? I'm not misleading, I'm not lying, but I'm leading with positivity. I'm leading with what I can do for you, not what I can't do for you.
Absolutely. Just a subtle reminder. I can't say that enough. I mean, you always tell people what you can. Don't spend any energy on what you can't. So, it's always yes, Mrs. Jones, or just validate their question. So great question. Something like that, because you want to make sure that you can engage them a little bit after that and make sure that it's a positive impact, even if it's the less desirable thing you'd probably see want a patient to come, and give the patient the opportunity, honor the patient, that you're going to meet them and they're going to give you, we're going to create a situation where they might choose to reach into their pocket and make a value decision with you long-term. So, as far as language skills go around making your patient, not the benefits, your main focus, tell us about that. Jenni, did we lose you? I don't know what happened there. Are you guys still on? Oh, I lost you there for a second. I was like, wait, is this over?
No.
I lost you for a second. Okay.
That went down.
All right. So,
Yay.
all right. So one of the questions Tabitha asked, how do you handle plans that do not offer out-of-network benefits? Great question. Great question. And do you have any thoughts on that, Jenni?
That's going to be one of the sticking points. And if you are, if you're in network with a plan that the patient must see an in-network provider, right? It's an exclusive provider network. If you choose to go out of network with that plan, you are going to have to be a little bit more strategic about the conversation with those patients, because the reality is they will not have any benefits paid to your practice, right? I mean, if it's just an out of network, they're still going to have benefits paid to you. But if it's an exclusive provider operation, then you're going to have to give some extra attention and extra love to those patients. A great idea that I've seen a lot of practices utilize is to tell them, for your first visit, your first 1 or 2 visits, we are going to honor what would have been like the network adjustment. So you're going to kind of transition them a little bit more slowly through the process. You're going to tell them personally, even though we are no longer in network with this plan, we are going to honor the contracted fees for the next 3 months, 6 months, whatever you determine that makes sense financially for you. And during that time, build value, build the relationship, help them see that the investment that they're making here is an investment worth it. Always tell them, you might go somewhere else and you might be able to find it a little bit cheaper, but you will not find it better.
Yeah, a great skill at anything administratively or even chair side is that when somebody gives you some big rock, that's a big one, like, do you take my insurance, or how much are your crowns? Grab the rock and just put it right here and say, Ms. Jones, that is a great question. Because a lot of time team members go, oh my gosh, I don't want this big rock. Like, just take the rock, put it right here and focus on the page. Say, Ms. Jones, that's a great question. So before I get into that, I need to know a little bit about you as a person, because at our practice, we're concerned about people first. And our doctor, she's awesome. She loves her patients. What a great way, even if they don't come here, even if they go somewhere else, you want to send them out in the universe and go, look, I never went to that practice, but that woman on the phone, she was awesome, just awesome. So objections like this, just like point D is, Make the patient your focus, whether it be cost, insurance, how long is this going to be? Is this going to hurt? Mrs. Jones, let me put this right here. This is very valuable. We're going to get to this, Rock, but I want to ask you a question. And now you can get into a heart-to-heart, knee-to-knee conversation, eye-to-eye with somebody. This is what really relational dentistry is all about. It's about connecting authentically with people. And when you can start to do this, this is where the magic starts to happen in any practice. So you want to make sure that you always point back to the relationship. Now we're going to end with a couple things, some of our favorite phrases, but you can use these in a whole myriad of ways. Just be equipped. And how I want you to use this is just keep them you can do them on 3x5 cards. You can use this sheet. It's just something to always have in your back pocket that when it comes to really big objections, you're just equipped. Like, I don't know, a couple come to mind when patients are like, wow, this is going to be expensive or something like this. One of my favorite things I've ever heard a team member say is, Mrs. Jones, there's no less expensive way to do anything than to do it the right way the first time. And that's what our doctor is all about. We're okay if you go to another practice, but I want you to know you're not going to find a more comprehensive dentist that cares about her patients than the doctor we work for. So all I want you to do is be equipped with good language skills. Remember what Jenni said at the beginning, language creates value. So Jenni, tell us about some of these phrases.
Yep, and I've mentioned this a few times, just going to reiterate. Just saying we are insurance friendly, we will help you maximize your benefits. Here's how we can help. Very simple phrase. And unless you have chosen to say, I'm not going to file insurance claims for you at all, this is a totally true statement. Filing the claims for your patient, following up on outstanding claims for them, that's a lot of work, and that is an insurance friendly practice. So just, again, what I can do for you, lead with a positive, make a positive impression, have a positive start. So being insurance friendly, we will happily bill dental benefits for you. And again, we're going to lean back into this value, asking questions, listening to them talk about what's important, and then reiterating what I'm hearing, that your dental benefits are really important to you. And I absolutely want to help you understand how benefits work in this office. Can I ask a few questions about you first? Right? Absolutely. Don't try to shove it under the rug. Listen, be curious, understand that it's important to them, and then repeat back to them. I heard that it's important. I understand that it's important. I am here to help you maximize those benefits.
Mm-hmm. And again, using the feel, felt, found. We have a lot of patients just like you, Mrs. Jones. They also work at the plant. They feel the same way they felt. And what we found, or what they found, is this works really well for them. And I know you asked about dental benefits, and I will absolutely help you understand how you can use those benefits here. To do so, I need to learn a little bit more about you. Again, putting the rock to the side and focusing on the patient. And we can work together with you to understand what this portion of treatment is. And dental benefits are somewhat like a line of credit. Can you talk about that one? I mean, that's one of those things I'm not the biggest fan of, going into the whole line of credit. I do know that a lot of people like to use the word coupon or line of credit, but I think that's one of those further down the line details that you want to help them understand after you've established trust.
Absolutely. And so you'll notice, at the end of the sheet, we have some sort of other things you can say, and there's the coupon, the line of credit. There are times when you're going to get a lot of pushback, when you will have those conversations where, there's just more and more and more and more questions and a lack of understanding about the dental benefits and how they actually function for their patient. So, encourage them to come in, sit down and talk about it and say, I want you to understand kind of a little bit about how it works in our practice and how the dental benefit works. So it is like a line of credit that ends. Comparing it to medical insurance can be helpful in this way. Mrs. Jones, what I know you understand when you reach your maximum for medical insurance is that everything is covered after that. Dental benefits work the opposite way. When you reach your maximum, it becomes all out-of-pocket investment for you. So the line of credit is useful in that conversation when we have someone that's really having a hard time understanding and has become even maybe a little bit combative. I want to help them understand. I want to be their advocate and just continue to tell them, I'm your advocate here. I want to help you understand how dental benefits work and how they work in our office. Do you have a few minutes to go over some things with me?
Yeah, I love that. And so that's, again, something you should always practice with how we communicate that. Be the best in the world, be best in class, best in practice. When people call your practice and say, do you take my insurance? Or just say, I love that question. Our fee-for-service practices that we coach, they get the same phone calls you do. They don't get phone calls where people are like, yeah, I have a ton of money and I just want to pay cash. Can you do all of this, all my teeth in like 2 weeks? No, they don't. They get the same phone calls you do. But the difference is they deal with them differently, or they engage them differently, and they love those questions. Well, they might not love them completely. They go, I love that question. I get it all the time. And let me find out why she asked that question, instead of going quick to an answer so that I can get off the phone and she can get off the phone. Other things you might want to say is you want to let the patients know that there's going to be some changing variables in our relationship. One of them might be your benefits. We want you to know that you can still come here. Your benefits might change. One thing you can always count on us is we're going to fight for you. We will be your advocate. I'm going to work to make sure that we maximize your benefits in this office. And one of the things you might not realize is that if your plan changes, you can still come here. Patients don't know that. They think that they are restricted to only what's on the list, and you need to let them know you are not restricted. Just because your plan might change doesn't mean you can't come here. You can always consider this your dental home. So keep that in mind, Mrs. Patient, no matter what happens. People move, their jobs might change, and you don't want them to think, well, when my job changes, I got to get a new dentist. That's a terrible way to look at it. So make sure you let patients know E minus R equals C. And, you can still expect one thing from us. While your benefits might change, you're still going to get the same great dental care when you come to our dental family, because we love having you here. Another thing that I've heard from so many practices, we've got a practice in Minneapolis that says this, and I love it. And they're fee for service, and people call all the time with different insurances, and they say, Mrs. Jones, we are what's considered an unrestricted provider. Now, let me explain what that means. So, Jenni, talk about unrestricted provider.
Yeah, unrestricted provider. One of the main things that really we all know to be true about being in network or patients with dental benefits, patients believe they are bound to the care that their insurance tells them that they can have. So an unrestricted provider say, we prefer to manage your care based on your individual needs, based on your dental disease. We have no restrictions that are placed on us by the dental insurance companies to say what care you can receive. Downgrading has become a big thing, right? Dental insurance companies are going to say, you can't do this, but you can do this, right? We aren't going to determine the care that you receive based on what your benefits tell you. We are going to determine the care that you receive based on what is best for you, the individual and valuable patient in our practice.
Yeah, I would adopt that one today. Like, I would just say we're an unrestricted provider for any, just to let people know we are a provider, but we're unrestricted. Now, what that means is this. Now, you do have to have this clearly outlined so that whoever's communicating this on the phone is telling exactly the truth and it's understood by the patient, but it clears the way to let people know, oh, I can come here. What you want to hear at the end is, I can come here. Remember, a lot of times when you're talking, the patient hears Charlie Brown's teacher. All they want to know is, can I come here? And what does that mean? Like, does it mean I can use this? Does it mean I cannot use this? So make sure that you're super clear in how you communicate. Other things that you can do knee-to-knee with the patient is you can say, for today, everything will be billed to your insurance company the way we've done it in the past. What I want you to know is the next time you come in to see me, my relationship with your insurance carrier will have changed. Now, our relationship won't, but our relationship with your carrier may. Talk about that, Jay.
Well, and again, and this is kind of what we talked about, the question that someone had about those EPO or those exclusive provider options. We're communicating with them. My relationship with you is always based on you, is always based on value. My relationship with the insurance carrier is changing a little bit. This is what it means for you. right? It means your investment portion might be a little bit different. It means it also means that I am not restricted by the dental benefits company in any way to provide care for you. And I'm going to perhaps honor something at this visit, honor something at the next visit to transition you through this process. But we're talking about a shift in relationship with the insurance company, the benefit provider, never a shift in our relationship with the patient.
Love that. And that leads us to our last couple, which is first, know that you can still come here and we still consider you as your dental home here. So, and secondly, we'll continue to work with your insurance, and our admin team will let you know more about how that will happen or how that'll work. So let's go ahead and get you scheduled. Now, Katie did ask a great question here, Jenni. As you honor the contracted fees for a period of time after dropping out of the network, also offer the membership program as a way to retain them ongoing? I mean, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, if you've transitioned someone into a membership plan, then they are getting some sort of discount in the practice. They're getting some sort of adjustment. I mean, that is a membership plan, right? They're typically getting some level of benefit adjustment by being a part of your membership plan. If you don't have that in place, then that would be the time when I would encourage you to look at this as an option, right? Mrs. Jones, you're cleaning today. We are now not a contracted provider. For this visit, we are going to honor, the network rate, and it'll be changed the next time. And this is especially effective for those patients that you might have missed communicating with. Somebody gets in, you realize we didn't have the face-to-face conversation with them. They are going to be coming in blindsided. This is a way to say, hey, we value you. We realize we might have missed this communication piece with you. So this is what we're going to do for you today. We don't want you to be caught off guard, but I wouldn't double those.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, there's two other questions that came in the chat, which I think are excellent, and they kind of go together. Katie asked the question, can you discount the patient's portion after the claims process? And can you combine the membership and insurance? Now, Hart Family also asked this one, how do you navigate the patient who is already covered under an insurance plan into a membership plan? And now those are separate. So can you talk about that? Because you don't want to utilize both of them. Again, it's E minus R equals C, but talk about the complexities of that.
You cannot, the first question, can you discount something after insurance? So someone has come in, you've accepted the network rate, and then you're not balance billing or collecting from them. That is technically insurance fraud. The insurance company would look at that as overbilling. So this would be a process, something that you would put into place after you had gone out of network. So you must balance bill. You must tell the patient that they have to pay you for their portion for your contract with the insurance after, or the insurance says, no, we look at that as you overbilling us because you're not billing the patient. So that's a no. You cannot do that. Doubling up on insurance and membership plans, I mean, I would really look at them as a way to transition your insurance patients, from being, either not insurance patients, or if something's going out of network, maybe encourage them to not accept the insurance plan and accept your membership plan at their renewal time, right? I would try to transition them from one to the other. It's not always in your best interest to duplicate them.
Yeah, absolutely. And that'll come in another webinar that we'll do on membership plans. But a lot of times, if you sit down and talk to the patient authentically about what the membership plan is, remember, a lot of these people need the benefits. They like the benefits. And if they know what your membership plan, the investment is, those benefits, they'll often say to you, well, this is cheaper or more cost effective than my own insurance that I get from my own employer. Why wouldn't I do this? And you can say, absolutely. Now, the second question you want to ask is, where do you work? Because that's a great thing to walk into an HR department and say, look, I can save you a couple $100,000. Are you interested? What a great opportunity that is. And we've had a lot of doctors do that. Just ask questions. Questions are the answer. And so a lot of times it's just being patient enough, being equipped with the right thinking and the right verbal skills so that you can handle these complexities. Remember, the complexities are never going to get easier on insurance. And our goal here is just to give you great information over and over and over again so that you guys get better equipped to build a great practice the way you want it to, all that kind of stuff. And so this has been such a fun day, and there's always questions that come up about this stuff. And I'm going to encourage you to do 3 things. Again, please add your action items to the end. But if you haven't joined our Facebook group, join us over at the Facebook group, which is Best Practices powered by Act Dental. And you're going to see the conversation is going to continue over there. Such a great community of people that are always willing to help, and they will share what they're doing in their office. Even it's not just limited to insurance. Sometimes it's with PPE. Sometimes it's with other things. Sometimes it's with hiring. Sometimes it's with just what are you doing for marketing? It's awesome to watch the dialogue, and I'll just encourage you to keep contributing over there. Also, like I said at the beginning, if you have questions, if you're just listening to this, watching this, and you're stressed, just raise your hand. Don't struggle through this. We got a team of people that are just committed to helping you. And you can click right here in the PDF and schedule a call with us, and we'll help you sort it. It's just a phone call. We're going to want to know your story, who you are, what questions do you have, and we'll answer them privately. And then if you're a serious student and you're just kind of stuck, and you're a lifelong learner and you're like, I know things could be better. One of the things that we do here as a coaching company is we can do a comprehensive exam. No different than a patient that comes to your office and says, hey, can you help me? Say, hey, look, let's sit down, get to know each other, find out what's going on. We'll take a look at all your data, take a look at your participation, take a look at what's happening in your operatories, listen to your team, and do a complete practice assessment. You will absolutely love it. You'll learn a ton about your practice. And you can reach out to me at kirk@actdental.com. And normally that process is $1,000. And as a result of the webinar, we'll do it for $795 until October 28th. So if you're interested, just email me at kirk@actdental.com. And you may not even be a candidate for that, but I'm going to want to have a phone call with you first. Just find out who you are, what it is that you want to accomplish, and see if we can even help you. And then we can talk about the process of an assessment. But all in all, I just want to thank you guys for joining today. I hope you found this valuable. Jenni, thank you so much for all of your insight. You're going to see this is part of the process, is we've got amazing coaches who are brilliant. You can see they really know what they're talking about. LA, Jenni, and all of our other coaches. So feel free to reach out to us at any time. And Jenni, any last thoughts before we say goodbye to everybody?
I end everything with gratitude. I'm just so grateful that you guys chose to spend some time with us today. I'm eternally grateful to be a part of this team and to have the opportunity to serve teams all over and work with amazing people every day. So thank you. We are grateful to you, grateful to be here today.
Absolutely. Just super grateful for you guys. Remember, when you have a better practice, you have a better life. And that's really what it's all about. So until we see you next time, keep taking good care of your teams and yourselves. And we hope you guys enjoy the rest of your day. Thanks for joining us.
Great day, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye.